I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Will there be any excuses after May 2nd for either fighter, for Mayweather or for your fighter?
There shouldn't be. I mean, the best man will win, and we'll go from there.
You know, George Washington once said, "It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one." A man by the name of Mark Twain once said, "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything." Man, I love those quotes. You know what I love the most about those quotes is they are very simple and to the point. You know, it's not some drawn out paragraph, some long ass quote. It is just simple and straight to the point. Originally, I was going to start this video off with my own quote, but I said, man, I got to add these quotes to this video. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Now, before I give you guys my quote about the whole situation, let me go ahead and report the news. So today, Manny Pacquiao did an interview, and he made a very shocking, incriminating admission about his shoulder injury that he claimed was severe. Let me go ahead and read to you guys exactly what Manny Pacquiao said to Philstar.com. Now keep in mind, Philstar.com, this is a Filipino website. Okay, so there's no reason for you to say they're hating on Manny Pacquiao, etc., etc. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and read the first paragraph of this article so you guys know how much respect this website has for Manny Pacquiao. Quote, Manny Pacquiao, the only fighter in history to win 8 world titles in different divisions, raised his right arm upward and showed no discomfort in appearing to have fully recovered from a torn rotator cuff suffered during the fight against Floyd Mayweather in Las Vegas last May. End quote. Now, like I said, if you read that first paragraph, that lets you know that they hold Manny Pacquiao in high regards. Now, let's get into the confession, because that's what I'm calling it. Let me go ahead and read to you guys exactly what Manny Pacquiao said about his shoulder injury. Quote, no problem. I'm fine. It's God's work. I never saw a doctor. I never did rehab. All I did was swim in the sea as often as I could. The salt water healed my wound. End quote. That is a smoking gun, guys, if I have ever heard or seen one. Let me go ahead and give you guys my quote, which is very simple as well. And I think we've all heard this before. But the one bad thing, or the many bad things about telling one lie, is usually you often have to continue to lie just to cover up the original lie, right? I have a feeling right now, Bob Arum is somewhere shaking his damn head, saying to himself or saying to somebody next to him, Jesus Christ, I told Manny to just stick to the script, right? Now, the reason why I say this is because if you guys have been listening to Team Pacquiao, which consists of everyone, right? Bob Arum, Michael Kontz, Freddie Roach, and of course, Manny Pacquiao. If you guys have been listening to their story regarding this shoulder injury, it has been a disaster since day one. From the first day Manny Pacquiao made this excuse, it has been a disaster. because none of these guys inside of this camp have ever been in sync. The message was always out of sync, right? 1 minute, Manny Pacquiao is telling people that, his shoulder is feeling better. And then you'll see another article right after that from Bob Arum. He'll be saying, I want Manny Pacquiao to come out here and see my doctor. But Manny Pacquiao, he refused to come, and he's supposed to come later, right? Then there's stories of Manny Pacquiao returning to the ring this year. Then Michael Kantz, he counters that story by saying Manny Pacquiao won't be ready till next year. The story is completely inconsistent, right? Now, what's so crazy about Manny Pacquiao saying that it was God's work? He said God healed him, right? Keep in mind, doesn't that sound pretty familiar? Because that's pretty much what he said leading up to the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. He said that God is going to grant me this win because God is going to prove or show people that he is real by basically granting me a win over Floyd Mayweather. So in other words, what he was pretty much saying is this is a case of good versus evil. And what Manny Pacquiao was suggesting is God is not going to allow evil to win, right? But once again, these are Manny Pacquiao's words. So who's the real good guy in this whole situation? And if you listen to all of the excuses that Team Pacquiao have made when it comes to this shoulder injury, is Manny Pacquiao in any position to call someone else the bad guy while calling himself the good guy that's working for God? I mean, let's just really break down this whole situation. Let's go all the way back to the day of the fight. First, Manny Pacquiao said that he was injured before the fight. And this is, now I'm going to go to HBO when it comes to Max Kellerman. This is the reason why you don't allow your personal feelings or your personal agenda to get in the way of your professionalism as a reporter. Because see, Manny Pacquiao, he said before the fight with Mayweather, his shoulder was bothering him. He asked for a shot, right? Now, Max Kellerman, probably not even caring if it were true or not, he goes with Manny Pacquiao's story. But you see, he doesn't just go with Manny Pacquiao's story. Once again, he gets on the microphone and he tells the whole world that Manny Pacquiao had an injury before the fight. And we should be praising Manny Pacquiao for going in that ring, knowing that he had an injury, etc., etc., etc. But the only problem is Manny Pacquiao made people like HBO's Max Kellerman look bad. Why? Because right after Max Kellerman defended that story, guess what Manny Pacquiao did? He changed the story. He did a complete 180 with the story, right? Once Manny Pacquiao found out that fans were suing him because fans were saying, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you went into this fight knowing you had an injury? Knowing you had a disadvantage? If I knew you weren't 100%, I wouldn't have paid for the fight, right? I wouldn't have bet on the fight, etc., etc. Now, Manny Pacquiao has another problem. So what does Manny Pacquiao and Team Pacquiao do? They change the story. And they say, oh, you know what? Forget about me saying that my shoulder was hurt before the fight. Actually, I hurt my shoulder during the fight. right? So once again, I got to go back to Max Kellerman. You see how foolish you look when you just try to defend someone knowing that what they say could easily be made up and you don't even care? There's a responsibility that comes with being a professional, especially a professional reporter, right? This is not supposed to be politics when it comes to boxing talk. Now, I understand there's a lot of politics in the sport of boxing, which I'm going to talk more about that. But it's not supposed to be about politics, okay? And once again, when you take someone's story and you just leave it at that, you almost become somewhat of an accomplice. And let me make this very clear, and it wasn't just Max Kellerman, because we all know that Max Kellerman is often trying to cater to Jim Lampley because he's trying to get that type of respect that Jim Lampley had for Larry Merchant. That's my own personal opinion. But anyway, Jim Lampley, he said the exact same thing. He defended Manny Pacquiao's injury. Once again, it is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. Guys, this is one of the worst excuses that any boxer has ever made. This has got to go down as probably top 2, top 3. One of the worst excuses, and might I add, one of the biggest lies. You are going to sit here and tell people that you didn't go to rehab, you never went to see a doctor, you just went swimming and God healed you? Do you guys understand that Manny Pacquiao was claiming that he had not just a shoulder injury, not just some little small tear? Manny Pacquiao said that this was a severe torn rotator cuff. Now, this is what makes this excuse of Manny Pacquiao so ironic. It's my own personal experience. Now, my son just fought in the National Junior Golden Gloves, and he made it all the way to the finals. Now, he won this tournament 2 years ago. We lost in the finals. Now, I want to make it very clear. I didn't tell anyone about this at the fight because when I think of shoulder injuries, I think of Manny Pacquiao, and I don't want to be associated with the excuses that he made, right? But yet at the same time, this is where it gets interesting. Now, this is my son's first fight in a year. He hasn't had a fight in over a year. On top of that, we were fighting at a higher weight class. So the kids that my son was fighting, they were all much taller than he was, okay? And we didn't have enough time to get down to the weight he should have been fighting at. But in the first fight, my son, he wins in the first round of the tournament. He wins very easy, okay? But after that fight, he told me, he said, something is wrong with my shoulder. It's hurting when I move it, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, because we were in a situation where my son hadn't been, he hadn't had a fight in a year, and I knew it was some heavy hitters in his, bracket. Matter of fact, I knew the guy that he was going to face in the finals, if he made it to the finals, this kid had 75 fights, and he was towering over my son. My son only has like 21 fights, and keep in mind, has been out of the ring for a year. So when my son told me he had a shoulder injury, I told him, you know what, I was okay to just pull out. I said, are you sure? I mean, man, we could pull out right now, and do a couple smokers, because, you're already going up against, I didn't tell my son this, but I'm thinking in my head, we're already going up against a guy who's going to have a lot of advantages. So I told him, I said, are you sure you want to go ahead and do this? He said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it, right? He makes it to the finals. Now, he wins the first round, but after that, the other guy, he wins the fight. The last 2 rounds were close, but, I even give it to the other kid. he got the win. Now, what's so interesting about this is after the fight, like I said, I didn't tell anyone at the tournament about my son's injury. We come back to Las Vegas, and the first thing I do is take my son to the doctor. Matter of fact, my son, he asked me to take him to the doctor. I take him to the doctor. We sit up there for damn near 2-3 hours in the waiting room in ER, and basically they send us out to a specialist. He gets some MRIs done, and the doctor tells us that he has some type of bone separation, where kids this age, they have this separation. The shoulder gets stronger as they get older, but it's really fragile at that age. So he said it is an injury that you have to take serious, but it's not like super serious. He said he wants my son to not use his shoulder at all for at least a whole month, right? Now keep in mind, this is where this ties in. Well, the whole thing ties in with Manny Pacquiao's shoulder injury, but what's so ironic is Manny Pacquiao is claiming swimming in the ocean, and that combined with God, that's what actually healed his shoulder injury. Now, what's so funny about him saying this is I remember the doctor specifically telling us, don't use the shoulder at all. Don't try to swim. Don't try to. He was even telling us not even to run. He was like, I would recommend you guys don't do anything that basically moves that shoulder too much, right? For at least a month. Now, do you guys know I have paid for a whole summer membership for both of my kids to go to the local water park in our area, right? It's a really nice water park in our area. So they have been going swimming, a couple days a week. Do you know, since this injury, I had already knew my son couldn't go, but my son hasn't even asked to go to the water park because of his shoulder injury. So with that all being said, Manny Pacquiao claiming that salt water from the sea and God is what healed his shoulder is a clear indication that this man never had a severe injury. Now, I know that Epsom salt can actually alleviate aches and pains in your body, right? But Epsom salt, or even icy hot, they don't heal fractures. They don't heal bones. Okay? All they do is give you temporary relief for aches and pain. So for you to sit over here and say that you were, first of all, you to even claim that you were able to do something that a severe shoulder injury wouldn't even allow you to do, which is swim. Let me tell you guys something. Swimming is a very strenuous exercise. Okay? Because when you're swimming, you're dealing with an enormous amount of resistance. This is the reason why swimming is such a great exercise, because it's a combination of cardio and weightlifting. See, once again, this goes back to what I told you guys before. When you tell one lie, you often have to tell other lies to cover up the original lie. What happened in this situation is Manny Pacquiao got caught swimming right after he claimed he was injured, right? And because of that, he had to cover up that lie with another lie, which is what he's doing right now. People are going to obviously ask you, wait a minute, I thought your shoulder was injured. What you doing swimming? That's one of the main things a doctor would tell you not to do. Don't go out swimming. That's going to make the injury even worse, right? Now, on top of him lying about that, Top Rank and Manny Pacquiao, they have another problem with this excuse that they came up with. Manny Pacquiao, sitting on the sidelines, is losing money. right? So he has a dilemma. Either he can come out and say the shoulder injury wasn't as bad as I told you it was, and it had nothing to do with me losing, and he comes back and he fights because he still needs to make his money, right? He could either do that, or he could stick with the excuse, the shoulder excuse, and miss out on money, miss out on another big ass check for 2015, and wait to 2016, take a loss because he had to stick to this story of this shoulder injury. This is the dilemma that Manny Pacquiao had, right? You guys have to understand something. Even though Manny Pacquiao made around probably $120 to $150 million, you have to do the math and you have to ask yourself, how much of that money went to Bob Arum? How much of it went to Michael Kantz, Freddie Roach, all the people in his crew? And most importantly, how much of it went to the IRS and the BIR, the Bureau of Internal Revenue in the Philippines? When you try to figure out how much money Manny Pacquiao was left with, it would make you think it probably would be a good idea for Manny Pacquiao to get another fight within this year, right? So once again, I don't know exactly how much Manny Pacquiao was left with, but those are just factors that you have to consider when it comes to the division of his income. So with that all being said, I'm gonna talk more about this in another video. I have more to say, but I want to go ahead and end this video. And all I can say, man, is this is not looking good for the Manny Pacquiao fans. And I know that Bob Arum is really disappointed with Manny Pacquiao after finding out about this incriminating admission that he just made in this interview. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.